Welcome in. I'm glad to have you all, man. Welcome you in with a smile and just appreciate all of you guys coming in. Let's have some gratitude together. Let's build, let's expand, let's appreciate and not de-appreciate, right? Let's build ourselves and do the things that we need to do or start being that creative one and to work towards our sovereignty. I mean, if we think we have no choice, we have no sovereignty. In certain areas, you don't. When you keep doing certain things over and over, it's called insanity, right? They say the great case of insanity is the proof in the pudding is that when you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting what? A different result. We've all did that. Let's just be honest. Take responsibility for what we did when we didn't know. And even if we do slip up sometimes and get in those spaces now, but just be aware, don't go into full judgment to fragment yourself, but take responsibility. And that's a balance to do that because it's easy not to. It's easy to pass the buck and always blame Jackie Blue over here or Jenny Purple over here. But the reality, it's always going to reflect to you about you and taking responsibility of what you do and what you might have done and how it can even fragment certain things with other people, but also the fragmentation of you doing things because we've experienced. I said on the last video we had two great word of the days that followed each other, right? Two really good word of the days that actually will even lead. I said breadcrumbs are coming. I can find you. You've been in the kitchen again. Why? Because you left the breadcrumbs out, or you left the cracker crumbs, and I seen where it went. It went right to your room. I know it was you. My discernment was what was actually in that part of the discernment. I was seeing pattern recognition. The crumbs went from the kitchen to your room. It's obvious you went in there eating the crackers at midnight when everybody was asleep, and then we're like, who ate the crackers? Well, the crackers pointed that you ate it at midnight, right, or at nighttime when everybody was snoozing, sleep again, right? But anyways, I was talking through some of even the word of the days, even to the past videos about something very much that we all experience, and especially those who have raised their consciousness coming out of the traditions that they were in, the old thinking, the old paradigms, raising your vibration, raising your frequency. Awareness has stepped in. Awareness is a big part of your life, and you're really on this mission and journey to find yourself and find your path, right, of your purpose. And then we always are dealing with these energies and having these karmic reactions and wondering why is this always coming back to me, or what, excuse me, whatever it is, or having base short relationships that seem like they were connected, and then you say they weren't connected because they dissolved, but the reality was they could have been just a karmic relationship to teach you a lesson of your karma, and they were there for the short time, in and out. Many maybe didn't even raise their consciousness. They may in a totality at times pissed you off, made you angry, and it made you mad. But anyways, we're going to get into this today because I do have a video and I do have some things I want to share with you. And we're going to do that right now, right here and now, because it may take some time. So I don't want to go fully into it. But without further ado. Right, without further ado. All right. I'm back at, look where I'm back at. But we're talking about amnesia today. I'm back at the old etymology dictionary online, and we're going to talk about, and remember this etymology dictionary is new. So if you can look them up, you'll see red ones, you'll see different ones. Try to find one that, if you want one, I used to have one and somehow it got taken. I don't know why anybody would take that and why I lost it. I had an old a dictionary, etymology dictionary that was old. So it would even tell you some history, give you definitions, and tell you what things were used for. Those won't do it anymore. I'm just going to be honest. Those won't go in on certain things like the old ones did. So if you can get an old one, that would be great. And they're out there. They could be a little pricey. I'm sure since I bought one, which was $39, $40 years ago, that they may have doubled with inflation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's talk about something. We've all experienced it, especially spiritually. Sometimes when we get age, we call it senior moments, and we think it's kind of a little slightness of amnesia on this 3D realm, on not remembering long-term stuff, not remembering short-term stuff as people get older. But we've also, of the spiritual awakening community, knowing some stuff, known that we have amnesia from past stuff. We don't always remember, and always trying to acquire some remembrance, putting yourself back together. I always talk about that. Putting yourself back together, your members back together, remember, which is really your consciousness and your fullness of who you are, because you were fragmented like a Humpty Dumpty story. You have to put yourself back together again, right? You're remembering. Got to put your members, because it is because it was one time in full working. Here's the amnesia story. Let's see, loss of memory, a Greek word in English from the 1670s, modern Latin from Greek, amnesia, forgetfulness, from amnesia, remembering, found out in compounds, only in compounds. Wow, that's heavy. So a little alchemy there. From the stem of menastai. I almost look like Thai. I want to say Thai, the way it's to recall, remember, which is related to mindful. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that word. And memory. I guess those are what those words probably mean in the Greek. I think the usual compound in Greek was amnestia, but this had a specialized sense of forgetfulness of wrong, which you kind of want that in a sense. Not holding grudges and condemning yourself, but you don't want to do it not to take responsibility. That's where you can do things either or, right? This is where you're in power. This is when you have power to make decisions. You're not controlled in certain levels. And the higher you go, you'll find the less control there is. The lower you are, you find there's more control of getting what we want, sovereignty, right? Even amnesty, kind of intentional Latin, the Greek, forgetfulness of wrong. Giving amnesties like we're forgetting you're wrong. Forgiveness could even go into this on certain aspects I get. Usually, especially pardons or offers pardon for a class of offense against the government has related to amnesty. Non-governmental organization Amnesty International is founded to call attention to the flight of prisoners of conscience, has appealed for amnesty for forgiveness, which they're calling we're going to forget. Sea of forgetfulness. I think the Bible talks about a sea of forgetfulness. Your sins thrown in a sea of forgetfulness, not acknowledged anymore. This is more that we're not remembering, though, where we're going to go. We're not really remembering our connections, even in past lives. We've talked here just recently about how I've even had a video about how the inner child connects to you through multiple lifetimes, that same inner child, and actually is going through this with you. Now quit dividing yourself from it. Take it in, because it's your best partner. It's the partner that's always not leaving your side, is your inner child. And I mean, this inner child is through you on every incarnation. It's the same inner child frequency, vibration. That same part of you is there and wants to teach you, and actually can be a portal. I mentioned this, but we've had amnesia from these things, and we've had a West teaching that these things are not so. We've had indoctrination after indoctrination trying to separate us from our higher selves to keep us in a low vibration frequency, so we can still be used in spools, right? So we can be, just be honest. It just to keep us in these vibrational subject, to be a vibration subject to the vibrations of even sucking your life out of you. Almost the vamp. We talked about that, leaking, letting energy go. These type of things, because we know somebody likes it, or getting emotional, revved up. I even said how you have a professional football game, AFC, NFC championship, and the home team loses, and how their spirits go, in the stadium. You got 50, 60, 65,000 going, that energy created. You talk about getting the suction. You talk about bowls or pitchers of energy drinking going on. And you say, well, what do you mean? I mean, yeah, that's what happens. Learn geometry and find out about stuff I used to adhere sports. But anyway, that's a whole different, it's not what this is about. But we're gonna watch a short video. I didn't want to take all day with it, but we're gonna go right into it. But notice this amnesia is real, right? And we're gonna go, and of course, I have to bring in spiritual amnesia, awaken your consciousness, and I have to use I definitely got to go into the alchemist, because man, I was led to it. I knew I was searching for alchemy. I was reading some stuff and I got connected to her, and she's helped me help myself understand things from the highest levels now. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. So much for Sarah. But so I will use her until I don't use her no more. But definitely this is an awakening, and this is called spiritual amnesia, awaken your consciousness.
Pulling away all of your remembrance, all of your consciousness, so that you're always in.
Sorry. Start from the beginning.
You've had a significant amount of trauma that creates fragmentation in the form of soul loss. And soul loss produces amnesia, but not just any form of amnesia. This is a metaphysical, spiritual amnesia. So what ends up happening is that once we've had enough soul loss, this significantly impacts our ability to navigate into higher dimensions or into other experiences altogether. And that ends up creating something that's known in mysticism as the adhesion to matter. Adhesion to matter is the same thing as spiritual amnesia.
Remember, I was saying on my last video when we were going over the word of the day that it was talking about coherence, how the collective can come into one. You can, on the lower levels, by the adhesive of connected to matter, the lower density third realm, and hard for you to break it is like the connective. And she's saying, what is it called? It's calling adhesive to matter. That's heavy.
And so that's why alchemists aren't concerned necessarily with saving some human in the third dimension.
Wow.
Instead, alchemy is a reclamation. It is a salvation of the soul, but it's coming from the perception that we are not mere humans in a third dimension, that we are in fact asleep, deities, asleep, gods, that are now in a form of adhesion to matter, meaning we're stuck in the material realm.
That's heavy. Stuck in the material realm, got a adhesive on that's keeping you stuck into the material mindset, the material realm, not wanting to raise out of that third density to fourth, fifth, and above, and stuck there. I mean, you talk about stuck like Chuck. Stuck, wow, that's heavy. And that's what I was saying earlier. Yeah.
So from universal consciousness's perception, universal consciousness isn't looking at us like we're humans and it's above us and we're below it. It's looking at us as though we are divinity, we are God, stuck in a material cycle, or what we know.
Wow. You know what this reminds me of? Me doing the music. There's a song by The Police called "We Are Spirits in the Material World." I'm going to have to play that song because this goes right what she's saying. Being the upper levels are not looking at us humans. They're looking at us, your aspects of source, stuck in the 3D realm. Stuck.
No, as samsara, stuck on the karmic wheel. We're in spiritual amnesia because universal consciousness perceives us and knows us as source. So when we're stuck on the karmic wheel due to significant soul loss, it produces spiritual amnesia. And from there, what we do now is go into an incarnation. with less and less essence. Essence is spirit, and spirit is what fills up the consciousness of a soul. So when we lose soul essence, what's happening is that we're not consciously choosing our incarnations. They're coming more from karma, meaning you were this one character in this one region and you were so riddled with judgments. You weren't actually a conscious, coherent individual, didn't develop the soul enough. Therefore, karma magnetizes you. It has a stronger pull than you into the opposite experience. Now, from a larger perception, we could look at this whole karmic act as being highly beneficial and highly merciful, because it's allowing that soul unit or that person to have a chance at reclaiming its own consciousness, at becoming more conscious, at becoming more evolved. That's what karma's most vital and sacred role is. It's not just a punisher. It only is perceived that way because it has to punish so much. Karma is actually helping a being become more conscious and more evolved. So
that's heavy, that you get stuck, but karma still keeps visiting you, trying to wake you up out of your play that you're in, of going back and just recycling and being at soul loss. But yet it's like a child getting in trouble or getting disciplined. It feels like you're always disciplined and it's wrong, but it's really through that discipline trying to wake you up out of it.
Karma will magnetize a being into an opposite experience or into anything if that being was so low consciousness that they were riddled with judgments, that they were riddled with lower consciousness. Now, where spiritual amnesia comes into play is when we are reclaiming our consciousness, when we are becoming more aware, when we are going through a spiritual awakening. What we're doing now is like a magnet. We are now magnetizing to us everything that we need to become aware of in order for us to awaken out of spiritual amnesia, with the ultimate goal of fully liberating you off of the karmic wheel, meaning you're not magnetized to nothing. You have full liberation of consciousness to enter this reality or to exit this reality at your own discretion. You are a liberated consciousness. And then some of us can be 50% stuck on the karmic wheel in spiritual amnesia and 50% liberated. And then you have some of us who are fully on the karmic wheel and our consciousness is fully asleep in matter and in spiritual amnesia. So there's a lot of different ways that our consciousness can be stuck on the karmic wheel. Our consciousness has different portions of it in different places. And because our consciousness is so large and has different portions of it in different places, we can be in spiritual amnesia while also guiding ourselves off of it. We ourselves can help guide ourselves off of the karmic wheel.
Wow, think about that. You yourself goes through this processing, and that would even encase purification and all the things she's saying as it's coming out the wheel. Then yourself, which is connected to you as your higher self, is leading you off that Ferris wheel or the karmic wheel into getting you into being, calling your shots, actually getting you into the place, trying to lead you into being sovereign, away from always repeating. That's powerful. But self is connecting to self to teach self.
Because we have portions of consciousness, both liberated and not. So the liberated parts of our own consciousness act as a guide to help the other parts of our consciousness evolve off of the wheel Now, all of this is very important when it comes to pre-birth intentions, because when we reincarnate into a lifetime, we can have pre-birth intentions that are specifically designed to help liberate our consciousness off of the karmic wheel, out of spiritual amnesia. So when we're triggering or activating these different soul contracts or these different events that we embed inside an incarnation, or what we would call a choice point that we come up against in an incarnation, what we're doing is having the intent that that choice point, that event, that soul contract will help us in some way become more conscious and awaken out of our spiritual amnesia. But those activations can only take us so far, because the more that we ignore choice points in our life, and the more that we refuse the call to awaken by becoming aware of whatever that choice point held inside it, or whatever lesson that event held inside it, we become less and less responsive to stimuli or to these activations. So by the time we get to a certain point in our own consciousness, it's more like the sleep state, the amnesia producing spell on Earth and in the third dimension can take over a person's consciousness until they can receive trigger after trigger, or activation and after activation. And it won't do much, because the trance-like sleep state of the third dimension has now pulled the being's consciousness deeper into matter, or asleep in matter. So basically, what all of this is saying is that spiritual amnesia can take over after a certain point. We can have pre-birth intentions for many different things. One of them can be a pre-birth intention to help awaken the collective consciousness into a higher timeline for humanity, into the more organic golden age timelines for humanity. Or we could have a pre-birth intention for us to help awaken more of our consciousness off of the karmic wheel. Or we could have a pre-birth intention for us to learn a specific lesson that has to do with sovereignty, or all three of these at once, because the higher order of this universe works simultaneously. And it's usually just us in our third dimensional ego that only perceives one thing that is meant to have the intention for that lifetime. So imagine if now we're reincarnating into an incarnation, and now we're in spiritual amnesia, and we have these triggers or these soul contracts that are meant to activate us, make us become more aware, make us learn something, make us question our reality, and wake up out of some layer of amnesia. And if we don't, then that just reinforces the spiritual amnesia. It reinforces our egoic third dimensional identity. So potentially we can reincarnate into a lifetime where we had a specific intention, and we can end up completely forgetting that intention, never receiving the proper catalysts, or never receiving the proper lessons that would awaken us into remembering that pre-birth intention. And then we could just get lost inside the very amnesia, the very sleep state consciousness.
Wow. So think about it. Get lost in it. Not even know why you came when there was an intention agreement before you came, but then get so caught up in the sleep matter that you don't fulfill it and just totally forget about it, and you double down your sleepiness. Wow. That's heavy to me. Makes me wonder about some other things that I remember back at, if that's what it really means. All right, let's go.
that we actually had intended to not only awaken others out of, but awaken out of ourselves. This is exactly the challenge of Earth, the amnesia producing effects that soul loss has in the third dimension. So in this experience, soul loss creates spiritual amnesia, and that spiritual amnesia doesn't just affect our ability to leave this experience, to leave this dimension, or to stay. So when we're setting that pre-birth intention and then we come into a lifetime, we can absolutely miss the mark. And that's what sin means. Sin means to miss the mark. So we can absolutely just completely diverge off of that intention, therefore actually creating more spiritual amnesia for ourselves the next round or the next lifetime.
Wow.
Why that's all important to know is this information is what allows a being to be activated out of that spiritual amnesia and to awaken into resetting their choice point, resetting their ability.
Resetting your defaults, because you're going to the default, and the default's called sleepyhead, spiritually, and not understanding, remembering anything about any of this, of who you are, just staying in the sleep state. And I remember the New Testament talks about that there are them that are awake, them that are dead, and them that are asleep. And I'm thinking, that's interesting on this level. And I know this is definitely an older thing in antiquity and in history. I'll quit trying to say that word right now. That would even a teaching way before that. Actually, she said it was not the Gnostics, but the in another video, she said it was connected to them that were the shamans, shamanic, of going and retrieving soul loss for yourself through a process of a ritual to get it back. It's heavy. It makes sense because, man, on so many levels, and I've said this even through my life in past videos multiple times, not every one, but there's times I've said it. What I'm not awake to yet, I'm asleep to.
To align back with that pre-birth intention. Why is all of this pre-birth intention, spiritual amnesia, soul loss thing important? It's because future timelines of Earth have come back into this present moment, or what they would consider the past. And they're trying to set pre-birth intentions for this lifetime to help completely alter future outcomes, to change course, to have themselves now help get put on a higher timeline for humanity. So help them help themselves by going into the past and helping us make radical different changes and choices so that we can experience a higher timeline for humanity, or more.
So that would be actually going from one timeline to another, right? Think about it. We've talked about this. I've talked about this in different aspects of ourselves, that this is when you know that only in our mind is the past, present, and future separated. And I was even looking, even there's times in past videos a few years ago, I would say maybe that which is forward is actually backward, because it's backward or backward, forward or forward. Ward and word are different, but very similar, right? You got the ward of the state. You got the ward of a prison. Yeah, this is some good, really good stuff. This is the next level of organization where our consciousness fits what happens when we go to the next level. You'll see how this lower 3D level, through governments and through all the stuff we see, have organizations. There's always orders with every aspect, said it. You got the order of the Jesuits, you got the order of the church, you got the order of this, you got the order of this, you got this order, that order. You got McDonald's giving you orders. You got Taco Bell getting orders. But there's orders in the spiritual aspect of our higher self. There's an order that's beautiful. Just on this 3D, they use chaos to produce your order. And this is connected to the material world.
Organic timelines for humanity. So a lot of times people are using their gifts or abilities that you think sound like they're innovative, or you would think and hope sound like they're evolutionary. But they're repeating a karma that leads to a dead end. They're repeating a karma
Yes.
for future outcomes for humanity that are not leading to evolution. They're dead ending. They're actually now catabolizing themselves. So they're not great choices, and they all lead to really artificial intelligent timelines, to the point where there's
like an AI.
no human organic essence anymore, and they're completely stuck. They can't go higher. They can't leave this reality. They have no free will. They are stuck. They're at a dead end. Coming back into the past, which is now the present moment, having pre-birth intentions to come into an incarnation,
Wow.
make better
Something I
choices.
just seen when she said that, I revelated on. The present is the future and the past coming together. Wow. I never seen that before like this. I just seen it when she said it. I'm revelating on what she just said. That's why I gotta stop it. I'm just being honest. I never seen that like that, but it spoke to me in a higher volume. That when she's saying the past now is the present and the future is the future, but when you bring it in everything into the present, the future and past is the present now. Yeah, I have to let that simmer for a bit.
But just repeating that karma. Good thing that this isn't everyone's scenario. This isn't everyone's problem, but also good thing that not everyone is stuck on the karmic wheel to that extent. So because of that, there's many beings right now who are helping humanity enter higher timelines for humanity, making choices that are different. There's a lot of people still just stuck in spiritual amnesia of the third dimensional human consciousness. They only believe they're a human. They don't believe that much even in the metaphysical. And their consciousness could potentially at some point run out of the triggers, run out of the helpful activations that their consciousness would be able to receive in order to wake up out of that spiritual amnesia. But if you're watching this, you're probably not one of those people anyways. So whether a being entered this lifetime and said, oh, I don't care about the future outcomes for humanity, I'm going to fully liberate my consciousness off of the karmic wheel and out of this dimension. That's happening. And then we have other beings who are here to awaken and assist humanity into a higher consciousness. And then we have some who are here to reclaim more soul essence. So there's a lot of different levels of being asleep and stuck into matter, or in alchemy, the adhesion to matter. And what the process of alchemy does when we're talking about spiritual alchemy is transform, is transmute that sleep base state of consciousness, layer by layer, through purification and purification,
Each level.
into every layer, where what alchemy is really about is saving. It's an act of salvation. It's saving the consciousness from its adhesion to matter, from its spiritual amnesia, by awakening it layer after layer and processing each layer into a higher order, so that the consciousness eventually becomes fully coherent, because that's what coherency means. Coherency means it's organized in a way where everything is connected, aware, and united. So what makes Earth the most intense, challenging, and no-chill place in this universe is the fact that it is the earth element, this what's known in alchemy as salt. It's the most crystallized physical form of something, but that's not just in our physicality. It's also earth in our consciousness. So what this means is that earth is so challenging because what is more common here is forgetfulness of consciousness, because it crystallizes, it materializes the consciousness.
That makes
And that's
sense.
the default setting here.
Wow.
So when a fully liberated being, or even just a partially liberated consciousness, is aware before birth that they're entering Earth, they're leaving so many parts of their awareness and consciousness at the door. Because going into the Earth experience from the Earth school literally is pulling away all of your remembrance, all of your consciousness, so that you are always in the struggle. Even if it's an invisible and unconscious struggle, you're always in the struggle of that force that is meant to pull your consciousness into its sleep state. It's pretty fun, huh? I hope this has helped awaken your consciousness out of matter. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakening.
Wow. Yeah, that was definitely, we talked about that when we went through that word in etymology, and yeah, that's deep. That's the higher realms of the connection of purpose, why, what's happening to us on the lower realms and the higher realms, the amnesia, because none of us are remembering our multiple lifetimes. We've lived them. Lived them. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm going to close with this. Actually, a relative at a wedding I went to, a family wedding, and I felt led that they were a little bit more open, which they were. And we were talking about that, about the unknowing and the how we get caught up in not remembering certain things, and especially our past, right? Especially with this, I just felt led I could talk to them about it, and they were kind of jolted, and they go, "Wow, I love these kind of conversations. I can't have them with everybody." See, there's everybody. You never know who you're going to run into. There's times I was not really running into too many people, but the last year and a half, I've run into quite a bit of people that have been just like connected, came in my path, that are seeking this in a way, and a lot of them are 40 and under, between that 35 and 40, and they're just waking, a few older. But anyways, and shout out to the older ones. Charles, Clayton, you guys are awesome. Marissa, Vina, you guys are awesome. And anybody else here. Patty, much homage. Appreciate you, Patty, for all the support you give, and I know you went through some dark nights of the soul through the past year with, your loss of your husband and all that. So much love to you, and I appreciate you. You stay really connected, and you really always, you always will send me these messages. Check out this word. It's a great word of the day. And I'll go in there and I go, "Oh yeah, she nailed it. She hit this one in the left field pavilion. She had a home run with this one, because this is a good word." Just those people that doing those things. But there was times I wasn't meeting new people with this, and then now there's times I just notice I have. So I just really appreciate, very good. Tying in the organization of the higher realms is starting to become more and clear. Why, when, where, why, and how, to why we're even in the density we are to go higher. Into what we were before matter. We didn't deal with an ego like this. We didn't deal. But this is an experience we couldn't have unless we went through it. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Much appreciation. Like, share, comment, and please share if you know anybody else open. Great day.